And I just remember that anadrol hitting like a sledgehammer. I was like, oh my God. It just went off the rails, like reps and reps on everything, like a whole plate on a bunch of stuff. You know, I was training with those two really good guys at the time. So like the workouts were just nuts. We were screaming in each other's faces and just forced reps on everything. And I remember just everything, it was the best month of training I think I'd ever had. I was like, oh my God. I just thought anadrol was the shit. Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. I'm here, Big Ron Partlow, as usual, Dusty Hanshaw, and the producer, Scott McNally. Fresh from Australia, we have to hear about this.
Yes.
Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Ring the bell. And remember, IamMutant.com. Go to IamMutant.com, use Dusty20 or Big Ron20 to get your 20% off. And get your protein there, your ISO Surge, your all-in pre-workout, and everyone should get on the gear. Get the gear, the EAAs. Okay, we are in business. Scott, how was Australia? Are we leading with Australia, or are we leading with?
Let's lead with our. Yeah, we've got a topic, and then I'll tell you guys about it later, though, because I've got so much stuff, and I want to tell you about meeting Tony.
We're gonna
all that.
We're gonna be bad. We're gonna be bad boys today, and we're gonna talk about.
Wait, boy. Yeah. Well, I'll edit that just in case. Here we go, though. So yeah, we had a lead topic. It was from one of our questions, and if you guys want to take part in the next episode, just comment below or comment on Patreon, and I have a thread up over there for our Patreon people. You guys are freaking awesome, by the way. Like, we have gotten so many great comments while the show was on its hiatus for a few weeks. I mean, nobody knew it was on a break, but we were on a break.
It wasn't like a break up. It was just a break.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Question for the next Q&A. What was the moment in your history of PEDs where you were a little shocked or spooked and even said, man, I am on some serious crap right now? Yeah.
Ooh, yes. So I did a pre-coverage of this to the guys, and I don't have anything where I was taking a ton of stuff because everyone knows I'm a liar. Liar. But what I do have is a lovely experience with a injectable Winstrol into my tricep leading into the 2013 USAs. And it was one of those ones where I always, Ron, you'll love this, but I never take my own shots. I have people give them to me. And of
course you do. Of course you do.
And I had an injection in the tricep. I was watching a show, and she went off to bed, and I sat there, and I was like, ooh,
like instantly.
Hurts.
Just 1 second. I don't doubt that at one point in Dusty's life, he had a minimum of 5 registered nurses that he could have called to come over to his house. RNs, not just girls that'll give him shots, but he would have RNs, at least 5, that he could call at any point in time. They'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Like, it would be no big deal. I just had to point that out.
It's not even wrong. I can't even argue. I'm just nod and keep going.
Okay.
So
move forward.
So I'm like, all right, you know, and we all you've all had a painful shot, and you're like, this one was throbbing, and I'm like, okay, we might have a problem. So I look at
your heartbeat in your tricep,
and it's literally immediately bigger.
Yeah. Oh God.
I mean, immediately. So
we got a bleeder.
I'm like, okay, we got a bit of a problem, and of course I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, well, there's nothing I can do. I basically just injected, milk and glass into my arm. I mean, that's essentially what it's WD-40 and glass.
WD-40
is essentially what.
That was the old fear back in the day, was that fake Winstrol would be WD-40.
Was it really?
That was the old fear.
I never heard this.
Oh, you got to be careful. You get WD-40. They look really cool.
I thought it looked like milk. Like it's
the only reason that you could tell the difference in WD-40.
Oh, sorry, not WD-40. Armorall. Sorry.
Same. The only reason you could tell the difference is because Armorall doesn't have glass shards in it, and Winstrol does.
Armorall's a little smoother, to be honest.
Way safer, and you're going to glisten on stage. So
not that anabolic, but pretty good shot.
See, I mean, not that I've ever tried it, but I've heard. So, anyways,
that was the old
it swells up like crazy. Yeah. It's enough pain that I have to keep it moving. because I'm like, all right, I'm not going to the hospital because, I have friends that'll just bring me drugs to the house. It'll be fine. So I just said, all right, I'm going to need a pain med, and I'll figure out, obviously, what else I need once I
buy you some time. Yeah.
Yes. So I decided to go to Walmart and just check out things on the shelf, moving them around up and down. And, people were like, oh, that guy's on some serious drugs walking around in here.
Yeah.
So the next
you
morning,
and the tweakers, you were the guys were the only people in Walmart.
I was the people of Walmart.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I was probably in a tank top with a swollen ass tricep, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I call a friend, literally meet them in the front yard with a glass of water in my hand to take the pain meds that she brings, pop in my mouth, slam them. She's like, what happened?
Nurse.
So she was actually,
yeah.
That one was actually, this one was better because she could write scripts. So anyway, so she wrote me the script for the infection actually while I was there. Fun fact.
Nice.
Got that worked out, but it had swollen so much, no less than 3 inches on my arms at my arm at that time. That's how swollen it was. And I don't know what it means. I never really got to the bottom of it, but by the time a week and a half had went by, I was 6 weeks out when this happened. The skin was peeling off on the outside.
Ooh.
Like literally like a chemical burn coming off the outside. And so I was like, all right, we're going to see. I'm just going to keep prepping. And if it'll come down enough and it won't be noticeable, if my tan girl can work magic on it, we'll be okay. And you could actually tell on stage, if you look at the pictures, you could see that the tricep was a mess. And I had a good old horn for years after that in that tricep.
No kidding.
So we do not take injectable Winstrol anymore, or WD-40, or Armorall for any of my clients.
I've got questions.
So do I.
Was this your first shot of winning?
Oh, no.
On the cycle?
Oh, no. No, I love, that's the thing. It wasn't even the first shot from that bottle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know what the deal was, but I mean, it was the last one. That's for sure. That's why I loved Winstrol, though, because I did always see an immediate, swelling, which I always attributed to being good news to, breaking up fascia a little bit. Like, all right, we'll go in there, we'll get some swelling. It'll go down.
It's going to help you.
It's like stretching, only from the inside out.
Wild.
I know what you mean about the peeling skin, because when I tore my quad and I had my surgery, my legs swelled up a lot, and all the skin around down my shin and around my ankle started peeling like I had a sunburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
And it's an inflammatory response that triggers that. And I just had so much inflammation, and I was worried at one point. I was like, oh shit. Sorry?
Inflammation.
Inflammation. Trigger word.
What is this inflammation?
Yeah. And it wasn't just because I was stressed.
your leg was.
I'm so inflamed right now.
Literally, your leg.
Yeah. And it actually scarred my shin. So my shin is discolored. It's got a bit of a bruise down it now permanently, and a little bit around the inside of my ankle from when my skin peeled off. Just nothing I could do about it. Oh yeah. You just wait for it to heal and get the inflammation out of your leg. So it's crazy. So Dusty's got a bad shot in his tri that made his tri look pointed.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell the story about the first time I took Anadrol.
Okay. Ooh. Yeah.
And so I had arrived in Australia, and I won't say how, but I had a bottle of Syntex Anapolon 50 purchased from a pharmacy.
Oh, wow.
As real as it gets. It was called Anadrol only in the United States. The rest of the world, it was called Anapolon. So Anapolon 50 and Anadrol 50 were exactly the same drug made by Syntex.
You brought it in, or you?
I would just say it. I had it in my hand.
You had it.
So,
you had it.
Okay.
It was there.
I had a bottle of Syntex and Anapolon 50 that was from Hong Kong.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I may have been in Hong Kong previous to that, but I'm not saying that those two are connected. So
that was a ballsy move. Now that I've been through Australian customs, by the way.
Well, this was the 90s. It was a little, I don't know.
It was a different time.
Anyways, I'm there, and I think to myself, okay, I got 100 tabs and they're 50 megs each.
Yeah.
So I'll do one pill at a time for 25 days. And then I'll wait. And the next time I do a little cycle, I'll pepper that one with 25 days of Anadrol. I'm thinking to stretch this bottle out over like a whole year, right? That's all and I'm backpacking. I don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'll use the Anadrol. Like I'll get a bit of test off somebody, and then I'll just sprinkle the Anadrol in like in the middle of the cycle,
Yeah.
First time, I think I might have been taking a couple 100 milligrams of test a week. I didn't have any money. I was like broke. And I sprinkled the Anadrol in the first time I ever took Anadrol. And I remember I would have been 20 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old. And my dumbbell shoulder press just went wild. Like I remember I was doing like the 110s and I threw the Anadrol in, and I was doing the 135s. And this was in like 95. I remember kicking up the 135s and just pressing them. Like no spotter helping me get them up. I just had this dumb farm kid Anadrol strength. Like it's one thing to be able to press them, but I was just grabbing them off the floor, putting them on my knees, kicking them up, bam, bam, bam. And like I look back and like I think when I was 20 years old, I was probably the best dumbbell shoulder presser of my entire life. I don't think I got any better than that. I just started getting hurt. I started wearing shit out. But when I was 20, I was like strong as shit on those. And I just remember that Anadrol hitting like a sledgehammer. I was like, oh my God. It just went off the rails, like reps and reps on everything, like a whole plate on a bunch of stuff. I was training with those two really good guys at the time. So like the workouts were just nuts. We were screaming in each other's faces and just forced reps on everything. And I remember just everything it was the best month of training I think I'd ever had. I was like, oh my God. I just thought Anadrol was the shit.
You were not wrong.
and after I finished that bottle, that whole bottle was amazing. I never took it for a few years. And then all the underground stuff shows up. Anadrol was never that as good. I know it's the first time you take it, but it's still nothing compared, man. Nothing compared. I had a face like a pumpkin.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Oh, I was so... Everyone was like, you're huge for... How old are you?
Yeah. I can't think of anything where I really felt like that. I mean, there was moments. I guess like my first real cycle... I remember I bought everything at once, so I had it all ahead of time, and it came to me in a. Do you remember the old plastic VHS boxes? Like, your VHS would come in like a sleeve type box, but then you could get the nice ones that were like hard case plastic.
All the Disney movies.
Yes. So I got one of those.
The porns.
And it was
Disney and porn.
It was labeled.
They dictate the market.
Wedding Video Volume 2 is the way it said in the mail and customs and all of that. And I remember opening that up and having a couple vials of test and some D-ball in there and some Proviron. And I was like, man, I'm on it now. That was the one time. And the other time was literally like back in the 90s getting on the what was that? The androstenediol. And then they came out with the androstenedione. And you could buy a bottle that had both of them stacked together. And I took I took one cap before every workout. That it's like I probably needed like 5 every 5 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I took that one cap, every workout. And man, I felt like I was doing something special at that point. Not nearly as good as your stories, but I did have a bad injection story though too. That was terrible. It was dumb because the company I used came out with the blend where you'd have like 250 test and 250 deca per milliliter.
All that stuff started hitting the market, the blended stuff.
Yeah.
It's the worst. I want control.
I got that and I got like a test 400. Okay. And I was like, all right, well, I want to front load all of this. So I took like, I can't remember what it was, but it would have been like 3 milliliters mixed of those compounds, right? That are all super high dose.
So it's like a gram of gear in there.
Yeah. And popped that right in my quad. And, it turned colors and black was one of them. It was bad.
Dude, the quad. Why the quad?
It was my next spot. You know what I mean? I did quads. I did glutes back then. I did shoulders back then. I hadn't discovered lats yet. or the little muscles like bis and tris. And
the ones that easily work and don't hurt like that.
Yeah, it was bad. It was like a tennis ball being implanted in your leg, and only like, the 10% of it, like an iceberg, where you could see like 10% of it bumping out,
but 90% you just under your leg.
You knew that was the case. Yeah.
Were you limping for like 2 weeks?
Oh yeah,
3 weeks.
It was bad. I ended up. I got on an antibiotic that I had around, and I can't remember where I got it, but it wasn't strong enough. So then I got a different one, and when I got on Bactrim, that's what finally kicked it out. Like I needed a strong.
So you had an infection.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I got a sterile abscess out of it, because it was clean gear because I kept using it.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Were you dumb enough to keep using it? Yes, I was.
Yeah, I kept using it, and I was fine, but I didn't do shots that volume anymore. But yeah, it was bad because it turned like green. First it turned pink, right, and then it turned red, and then it turned purple, and then it turned green, and when it started turning black, then I was like, oh man! And it was like, one more day, I'm gonna go to the hospital. And I, waited, and I'm like, okay, one more day. Yeah, exactly. And then the Bactrim kicked in, and I was all right. I did learn something though. I discovered that that's the first thing I learned. I tell people never to get blends anymore. You know what I mean? Or and then like the T400, T500, I just stay away from that stuff altogether. But I discovered too that if you compress a limb that has had a bad shot, that you can push the inflammation out of it. And I've used that since. So after that, I obviously had other shots that didn't go great, but you could like take an ace bandage and wrap that tricep or wrap that quad
a bit,
and you wake up the next morning and the inflammation would be dramatically reduced, range of motion be better. But man, the things we did to ourselves for bodybuilding, and that was like you know what I mean. That was like everyday stuff. You know what I mean? You just dealt with those things.
Oh, that's
crazy.
Do you ever have those? I had those times where I can't remember what the brand was, but I had a little kangaroo on the label, and I would get.
Right off the bat,
I would get sick after every shot.
Ooh.
And I finally had to learn that I just couldn't. I'm like, this is like, you go like 5 shots and you're like, if I can't eat because I'm sick and I can't train, then this is not a good cycle. And you just throw it all away.
Yeah.
Don't trust those kangaroos.
Yeah, the kangaroo. Yeah. I remember. I know I've said this before on the show, but I remember I was at a guest posing, and he's not. I'm sure he's not going to see this, but Gunter guest posed, and it was right after the 2002 Olympia, so he'd had that crazy top 5 placing where everyone was like, oh my god, and then he beat Ronnie, so I saw him guest pose like right after that. The beat Ronnie show. So anyways, I saw him guest pose, and he was huge, like looked absolutely awesome. And his one delt wasn't striated. It wasn't like huge or anything. It just wasn't striated, and I kind of noticed. And then I was talking to him after, and he actually brought it up. He's like, "Yeah, I was really worried I had a bad shot." And I go, "Oh, what did you do?" And he goes, "Oh, I was a shot at Tokyo gear."
Oh yeah.
And I remember just thinking like, holy, like guys at that level are using like underground Tokyo gear. Because at the time it was like a sketchy underground brand that was like on the message boards, right?
Yeah, it was Mexican, right?
Yeah, it was Mexican. And I think it was at that time I realized, I'm like, oh, like everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, cause you guys kind of think like, oh, these guys at that level, they get like all crazy this and that, but it's like everyone's got the same buddies at the gym. Everyone's got the same guys, getting the same stuff. You know what I mean? And it was just like a wake up call. I was like, oh fuck, like, yeah, they're never dealing with this crap never ends. Like the guys at that level, they're still dealing with this crap,
Yeah. I don't know how he got it, but I used to train with a guy named Don who had a Tokyo Labs t-shirt.
Oh yeah. You have a dog on it?
I'd give anything to have that shirt right now. I'd wear that on every episode.
It was Tokyo with 2 T's, right?
I can't remember
I think
exactly.
It was something like that something like that. But yeah, that was
a cool shirt.
Days, man. That's so funny.
I've got a really fun one for you guys, and I'm excited to hear your answer for this one. Gentlemen, discussion for the next show, the Olympia versus the Arnold, plus your experiences going to both. Keep up the great work. I'm excited to hear your answers because you guys have been to a lot of both.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is a tough one, Ron. You're going to go first because I got to figure out where my brain wants to go. It's broken.
Well, I think at the end of the day, the Olympia is a funner trip because it's more relaxed. Yeah. Generally, it's Vegas, while excluding the fact we have to go to Orlando this year. But for me, the Olympia has always been Vegas. It's a super easy trip. It's a one flight that's barely 2.5 hours long. There's, where I go to the Arnold, I have to connect in Toronto or Chicago and then fly to Columbus. And, the Olympia is more laid back. The Expo is more laid back. It's like nobody's dieting except for the people that are actually in the Olympia.
Yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah.
Pretty much everyone else is just like kind of having fun. You know what I mean? It just seems like a different vibe. I was thinking when you go to the Arnold, like everyone's on their meals and it's like everyone's in a frenzy and it just has that vibe, like very like,
yeah,
the Arnold's Arnold's very high energy. It's like full on, man. Yeah. And the Olympia is kind of chilled. Like everyone's a little bit hungover or they're still a little baked from the night before. Yeah. And just kind of got that, like you go to the booth and you're like, hey, good morning. And everyone's like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like,
still wearing sunglasses.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as the actual shows, I think they're both traditionally pretty good. I don't remember like thinking one was way better than the other or anything like that. I don't know. They're both great to attend. I usually tell people the Olympia is more fun and it's easier for me. So that's the one I like better. But but the Arnold is like fantastic and I love the direction they're taking it in. And I'm not a fan of the Orlando trip this year for the O at all. I'm really not looking forward to it. Emily might not even come because she doesn't really want to fly to Orlando and it's like 6-hour flight for us and, blah, blah, blah.
It's going to be a struggle for you to get there, Dusty. You're all of like
tough.
2 states away, something like that.
It's like a straight down shot. Yeah. But what's funny is I'm the same. Like the Olympia belongs in Vegas. Mm-hmm. It just does. Like, and I know, before I was really into it, it was bouncing around and then it landed in Vegas and stuck because that's where it belongs. And I know why they're doing it. They couldn't get back on the schedule. This will be the last year it's in Orlando and it'll never be back. It'll be in Vegas ongoing as long as they still own it, from what I understand. So excited for that. To answer the question, I thought just purely on my experiences, and I have memories of like that I can visually see in my head of Olympia moments taking place that blew my mind on stage. So those things cannot be replaced. So the Olympia will always be my favorite. Plus, like Ron said, it's Vegas. Like one thing I hate about the Arnold is now at this point in my life, it's a few days off of training because I'm not going to go have half-ass workouts in a gym with 10 million people in it. And I'm not in a point in my career where I'm driving 40 minutes out of town either at 4 in the morning to work out. Whereas the Olympia, I've got 30 gym options. So does everyone else.
Yeah, that is cool.
You can even just go down to the hotel gym. It's better. Like some of the Vegas hotel gyms are good enough to do shoulders and arms in and stuff like that.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of that going on. Plus, I like to eat awesome food in Vegas.
24 hours a day.
Exactly. So tough to beat. So if I was going to go to one, it would be the Olympia. This year we're doing, we actually got an Airbnb so that we have a kitchen and all those things just so that Nikki can stay on plan. Her coach is a fucking, anyways. But no, that's the only thing. So I would definitely say that. Plus, outside of last year, Columbus in March. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, last year was a change. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. We're walking around in T-shirts outside last year. I was like, oh, shit, this global warming thing is real, but it's not. So, yeah, that's my split.
Yeah. So I was just going to say I'd rather have breakfast in a Vegas hotel than walk 4 blocks to this spot where we eat at the Arnold or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know.
You guys both make very compelling arguments, and I respect your opinions, even if you are wrong. That's okay. I'm going to go with the Arnold Classic, 110%. I think part of it is just that I'm a Midwest guy. So I like that bodybuilding's coming to the Midwest. I like Columbus. And part of it, I understand, is because of the experiences I've had at the Arnold. The old regime, I had an in with them, and I loved that. The new crowd, so after the Lormers are gone now, Arnold people took the whole thing over. They've changed a bunch of stuff. They even changed the T-shirts, which I'm really disappointed in. I've bought a T-shirt every year from the Arnold, and they've got them pressed locally from a local Columbus business, and they did a fantastic job. So much so that I tried to get those T-shirts for myself, and I couldn't. But the new T-shirts they're using are just like more of a generic shirt. They don't fit right, so I probably won't be buying one in the future. And that's because that was, Arnold's people just did something different and they outsourced it. And I didn't like this last one as much because I didn't feel that same personal touch. There was a family element to the Arnold that I really appreciated. And even though it was this big thing, I still felt like it was family run, which it really was in the past. So me personally, I just had so many great experiences at the Arnold. And I do feel like historically, I've had a really good group of followers from the channels, like, because back in the day with Bodybuilding Nerds Radio, there was like a lot of Michigan people, a lot of Ohio people, and then I get to see all of those people at the Arnold. Now the show's a little bit different, and we get to see people like at the Olympia. It was crazy, like I just said I was going to stop by for an hour, and it lasted 5 last year. But yeah, I like the Arnold. I like the energy. I like that high energy. And to me, it's all just focused on bodybuilding for me that weekend. And there's so many just shows after shows, all the amateur, all that stuff is so cool to me. Yeah. So that's my take. But you guys do drive a hard argument there. Good argument with all the food. There's great restaurants in Vegas, and I see there's a Vegas show too. I don't know about Orlando. I haven't been to one there, but
I think one of the main things for me is I've been to like probably 10 Arnolds and almost 20 Olympias. And I think one of the main things for me is that because of weather, I have missed my connection in Toronto 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
So you're on your way to the Arnold and you're stuck in Toronto on Thursday night for no reason because there's some random snowstorm in the Midwest, and you know what I mean? And then you get in and you get to your gate. I remember one year I was looking at the plane. I'm like, it's still here. They're like, you can't get on it. Yeah. Your bag won't make it. I'm like, but it's right there. And they're like, yeah, no, sorry, we bumped you. And I'm just like, ass. You know what I mean?
I could drive to the Arnold too. So there's probably
they just I showed up Friday. The expo's already going. So I showed up like Friday and showed up at the expo at like 1 PM because I was the only flight I could get in, So like you do that a couple times. I've had it happen 3 times. You're just like, So now I go through Chicago, which still isn't guaranteed that you're going to make your connection. Yeah. So
it's a coin flip too.
But
you have more flights, I'm sure, from Chicago.
There's more flights. That's why. So it's like, lower risk.
The Arnold is a straight shot down US 23 from me, and US 23 turns into like a 2-lane highway in the country with cornfields all around. So once I get out of Detroit and through Columbus or through Toledo, then I just get on, I'm on 23, and it's just a straight shot. I can listen to what I want to hear on the radio, stop at a gas station, get a coffee, or you know what I mean? It's
How many hours?
It's 3 hours. So it's not that long. It's a historic trip for me. Like every year, I remember like taking time off work so I could go to the Arnold and just being so pumped up, listening to podcasts about it on my way down about who's going to be there and seeing Kai Green win and shit like that, So I know for me, it's a lot of memories that I have tied up in that show, but
right.
That's my argument. Awesome. I'm sticking to it.
I guess, also, I remember seeing Ronnie win a bunch of Olympias and then seeing Jay beat him.
Yeah.
And then seeing Dexter win. I was there when Dexter won. I was like, oh my God, and then I was there the next year when Jay won it back. And then when Jay gave it to Phil and did his speech about, recognizing Phil as a kid and like, handing him the title and like all that crazy stuff, and then Roden winning. Like I was at all those. So
the Roden show was awesome.
So many huge shows. Yeah. You know,
I followed Brandon so closely that year because he listened to one of our shows, so then we started getting him on our shows, and I followed him into that Olympia.
Yeah, I saw Brandon pull it out, and just awesome shows.
He was wearing gold trunks, and they had the gold confetti that came down when he won, and I almost felt like, man, was this meant to be here because of the gold and the gold? It was a cool moment.
Maybe he got the inside word, like, hey, the confetti's gold.
Yeah,
or
maybe they're like, release the gold confetti.
Release the gold. Yeah, they got 3 different colors up there.
Yeah.
So funny.
All right, let me see what else we got here, guys, because we did have a bunch here. Just a comment, and feel free to comment on this if you like. Just eat, train, sleep, and grow in the off season. Most people look the same every year because they're afraid of getting fat in the off season. I want to see if I could trigger Ron with this one.
Well, it's kind of right. Like, you can't be afraid of eating. You don't want to get fat, but some people definitely eat like they're afraid to get fat, and there's a difference. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You have to,
for sure.
I look at some people's off-season diet, and I'm like, this is like a contest diet. Like you're gonna mentally fry yourself trying to do this all the time. So I definitely believe you can't be afraid to eat, but be responsible.
Yeah.
A little bit of that.
Low. I don't know.
Hey, is that not triggered enough for you, Scott? What did you want me to do? You want me to get mad about that?
I wanted you to lose your mind on that
one.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, you did. Dusty, you're better at triggering Ron than I am. All right.
Dusty's going to actually try, and it's going to be bad.
Every time he tries, it works.
My neck.
Yeah.
If he's going to try, I'm in trouble.
All right.
You get best reviews when you go off.
Here's a really good one for both you guys. I love this question. I'm getting ready for my first show in April, but I got to ask, and this is a halfway serious question. Do I need to be worried about my nuts falling out of my posing trunks?
Do the trunks fit?
Yeah, make sure your trunks fit, because
and also, is this a guy or a girl? Anyway.
So I have seen a couple of suit malfunctions.
Yeah? Okay.
And I would say that in every case, it all started with me wondering, this guy's trunks don't fit him very well. He should have different trunks. And then something happens. So that's usually a precursor. Like, make sure they fit. And
are these guys not practicing? I mean, like, I would be at home
try them on, walking around the
doing
house
my posing in the house. I'm like, nut fell out. Probably shouldn't wear these. Just a thought. No?
Do you suggest people put their trunks on to practice? Because a lot of times guys are just like in their boxers,
Oh, no. I even ask clients to do that.
Yeah.
As they get closer, I want to see what you're going to look like. You can buy practice trunks if you want, but I like to see trunks, because they wear boxers and like up to their hip, and I'm like, I can't even see your conditioning.
Yeah.
And don't you dare send me pictures like with a squiggle on your nuts. I don't want to see that either.
I remember. I got to tell this story because I just remembered it. It just came back to me.
Got him.
I'd blocked this out of my memory because it was so traumatic. And I just remembered something. I remember at Hardcore Gym back in the day, there was like this boxing room that was the posing room, right? It had a bag in it, but it was essentially the posing room. And everyone would go in there. It had really great lighting. And I was training. I was doing seated leg curls, I remember, which was right by the entry to the door. And there was a guy in there, and he was getting ready for a show, and he's posing. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, his dick's hanging out of his underwear.
Oh, God.
But he didn't realize. And he's in there just practicing his mandatories, like hitting his lat spreads.
I did not see.
I was like, oh, God. And then I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, well, he's in there all by himself. I'll just move over so I don't see anymore.
Yeah.
And then this one dude that trained there, he comes over, he's like, look, his dick's hanging out of his shorts. And I go, well, I'm not saying anything to him. I'm just like pretending I didn't see it. And he was in there posing for like 20 minutes, his dick hanging out of his underwear. And no one was in there, but I was just like, Jesus, I wanted the posing room. I was like, I just got to wait for this guy to come out because I can't walk in there.
No.
Jesus. I wait for him to come out. He comes out. He's like, oh, good.
Was his dick still hanging out?
No, well, he was dressed, but
good.
Wow.
Be aware. Be aware.
You didn't notice a breeze? Nothing?
You're right.
Wow.
Right.
It's real awkward. You're like, God, Jesus.
Yeah, it's not good. Oh, everyone's got one of those. That's a rough one.
Yeah,
Do you guys think there'll be another singular dominant, multiple Olympia winner for the open bodybuilding again? A Coleman, a Cutler, a Heath? If so, could you guys toss around a couple names, if any?
I don't know if we're going to ever see another 5, 6, 7 type of thing. And one of the reasons might be that I think that the guys are collectively getting to such a crazy level of size. Like if you look at their body weights, like Samson's like 300 pounds now on stage. Like there used to just be Ronnie and everyone else was 250.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's not like that anymore now. It's like 300, 300, 300, 275 at 5'6". Yeah. Right. And I just don't think that it's sustainable for the length. Like Phil Heath, I think, was an extraordinarily gifted example of not needing to take a ton of drugs, staying insanely healthy without, anything going wrong for a really long period of time. You know what I mean? Like that, those are the odds that are hard to overcome. And now with carrying all this mass, like what was Phil's heaviest body weight when he won the O?
Oh, it couldn't have been above 50s.
He's going to be 240s, right?
Yeah. 240s.
I don't even remember Phil really ever talking about his weight.
He didn't have to.
Yeah, that's the thing. He didn't have to, right? But now like look at like jacked and they're getting so huge.
Yeah.
That I just don't think it's sustainable to win 8. Like I don't know. That's just my thing. I think it all comes down to like how long can you do that at that level? And I think that, the higher the level, statistically on average, the less sustainable it is. So that's all I'm saying. And then don't mean anything bad's going to happen to them. I just mean they just get like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Tired of this. I'm 350 off season. I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't know. Maybe also guys being able to pull more money out of their own entrepreneurial spirit, not just living off contracts, but actually able to pull money out with their businesses, making themselves into brands and cashing in more on their reigns. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's all like all the possibilities there. Back in the day, you had to win 6 Olympias to really save yourself millions of dollars. But now maybe once you win 1 or 2 Olympias, your side hustle's pulling in all your money. I don't know. You got your app going.
Not even win. Look at like Nick Walker, he hasn't won an Olympia, but like tell me he's not doing better than a lot of the guys were in 2006.
Crushing it.
You know what I mean?
Crushing it. Yeah.
I think the other thing I would add is I think it's good because you got to remember, like a lot of the guys that are watching this don't realize that guys used to go into the Olympia shooting for second.
Yeah.
Like they knew they were not going to beat Ronnie. Jay is the only person who ever said he could beat Ronnie and hunted him. And the rest would literally, one of my favorite scenes, which a lot of the guys that listen won't know about this, when they did the challenge round and they had Triple H interviewing guys backstage and everything. And they were trying to like pump it up a little bit more on the live. And Triple H was like, so Dexter, what do you see going down? And he goes, all I'm saying is I'm getting second. And Triple H goes, second? And he goes, man, that's Ronnie Coleman. That was his answer.
Yeah.
Like, he was not beatable, and they knew it. So as a fan, look, we went to the show last year, and I have no idea who's winning this Olympia. Yeah. Whereas when Jay started winning, I was like, well, Jay will win. When Ronnie was winning, Ronnie will win. When Dorian was winning, Dorian will win. It's exciting to go into the Olympia and say, all right, there's 5 guys that can win the Olympia and guys coming up. I mean, I'm grateful for the fact that there's not that dominance anymore because it does make it exciting. I mean, you know, I have skipped Olympia finals because I already knew. I was like,
right.
I'm in Vegas and there's Vegas shows I don't know the end to, but I already know the end of this one. So we're good.
Yeah. I think the general, like, if you think about how many people are into bodybuilding and want to be Mr. Olympia. Back in Dorian's age, there was X number of people that wanted to do that. So if you happen to be gifted, you know, the cream rises to the top. Now there's 10 times that many people that want to bodybuild. So you're going to have 10 times as many really amazing specimens that enter the bubble of bodybuilding. And you're going to get a lot more cream rising to the top, right? It's just a numbers game. And so you're going to have a whole bunch more guys that have the genetics of a Samson that are in the gym pumping away. And if you know what I mean, and you just have a lot more of that at the top, the depth of the cream gets crazier is theoretically what should happen. And it should get to the point where you never have a repeat winner. You know what I mean? Like eventually if you had enough really crazy guys that were at that level all the time, it should almost be like repeating should just be astonishing. Just think of other sports where repeating is astonishing. Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of places where that's like, wow, we won 2 in a row. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the odds and what it takes for that to happen, injuries and perfect and yada, yada. No, it's huge. Let me ask you this, though, with that in mind, Ron. Is bodybuilding, was it better? Were the best guys better? The top 3 in that era of Ronnie, Jay, that Phil, that little era right there? Or am I numb to bodybuilding now so it just doesn't blow my mind as much anymore? Because when I think back to Jay walking out, it was like, whoo, or Kai, you know what I mean? Ronnie, like Phil at his best. I really do think to myself, the cream has risen to the top. There's more of it, but I don't see a Phil. I don't see a Ronnie.
So those guys, those guys are, I don't know. I don't know if it's just our perception, you know, of, I mean, if you look at their body weights, it's like they're getting bigger for sure. Yeah. Like their body weights are getting higher. You're right. I don't necessarily know if the look in our eyes is better. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's a
trippy thing, you know, because I look back, like when I was a kid growing up, there was a guy in my gym that was just a freak. And I was like, man, one day, you know what I mean? And then I got good at bodybuilding and got really big. And I saw pictures of him back from those times. I was like, oh, he was never very big.
Right.
It's just my perception of what a freak was incorrect. You know what I mean? And I kind of feel like that's why there's confusion, because there's still guys now that are like, you know, and I say this respect, but they're like, man, Ronnie Coleman couldn't stand with Nick Walker. And I'm like, and Nick would tell you that, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's understanding what the levels are, but you know, it would be fun, I guess, is what I'm saying, is to have a couple of those guys come out, because it was fun in some levels for the Jay and Ronnie show every October.
Oh yeah.
It was like, here they go. I mean, for a while they only put those two on the poster. Remember?
Yeah.
It was like it was a boxing match, but it was bodybuilding with 15 other guys.
All right, how about this one, guys? He says, you guys often talk about bodybuilding, about building the metabolism. What do you do exactly, and what's the thought process? Maybe you can help. Maybe you can talk about how you approach this when working with a client.
I think that sometimes it might not be like the right word, building the metabolism. I mean, technically muscle is your metabolism, right? So the more muscle tissue you have on your body, the more calories you're going to burn when you're laying in bed at night, sleeping and all that stuff. So that's what I usually tell people, is basically muscle is your metabolism, essentially, you know? But I think it's your building up your ability to eat and tolerate and digest your food. is kind of what we're talking about when we talk about building the metabolism, is getting your food up. And that's when you learn like the right foods for you. You know, that's why I use a lot of white rice, because I can get a lot of white rice down if I wanted. You know what I mean? Whereas if I use like, say, pasta, it's like maybe harder to eat the volume. So part of getting your food up is figuring out your food choices that have to be, you know, doesn't mean pasta can't work, but you got to be able to get your food down. And that comes from incrementally getting your body accustomed to it. And I do think that your metabolism speeds up a certain amount when you obviously put more food in. There's a certain amount of upregulation and stuff like that. But it's not like it's magical, like we can just get your metabolism to double or anything like that. But yeah, it's getting your food up and being consistent with it, which is work. It's hard work. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think you know, and you really nailed everything that needed to be said. But the only thing I would add in there is it gets confusing for people, like you said, when we're talking about, because it does sound like we're changing the way your body functions, and that's really not the case. We're just helping your body get used to utilizing food better. And that's why, for example, if your calories are really, really low and you're in your off season and you're not in great shape, and now you need me to get you in shape, I only have one option. Yeah. And that is to put you through hell, you know, and it's an unnecessary hell. If we had gotten your body used to using more food, there was that era, I want to say, you know, late 2008 to 2012, where it started pushing that you could, number one, that your metabolism was so sensitive and you would shut down your body if your calories went too low. And I'm like, the body is more resilient than you guys are trying to sell it for. And then the other end of the spectrum was that, no, there was a way to eat so much food and get shredded. And I'm like, also bullshit. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way. So the idea, though, is to spend your time in the off season getting your calories as high as they can be while maintaining a good level of body fat, so that when you suffer, and the suffer is coming, it'll be on more food, but it'll be just as painful.
Yeah.
You're not dodging the pain is what I want to make sure you understand.
Yep. There's no way around it. You're going to be hungry.
I think that it can take a while for some people to get that metabolism built up, if we can use that term, you know. I think some people it happens faster than others, but I can tell you that for somebody who isn't used to eating, say, breakfast in the morning, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not hungry at all," you know. But if you have them eat a meal at the start of the day consistently, after a few weeks, I feel like I'm putting my hand up in air quotes for our audio listeners, we've, you know, like changed your metabolism. You know what I mean? Like you'll get hungrier over time. You'll be able to process more food, but it does take time. It's just a matter, though, of like getting through that and just doing it. I almost feel like you have to create the demand. You know what I mean? Like you put the food in, you're not hungry at first, but after a while you begin to anticipate it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right. See if we have another good one one or two to finish on here. Somebody asked us, they said we should get Lee Priest on. We've never had Lee on the show. He watches.
I'd love to have him on.
Yeah.
He's great. Him on.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You know, we
should make that happen.
I think my fear of having Lee Priest as a guest has passed.
Yeah, your fear.
Oh, what's gonna happen? Can our show handle it? We've had enough episodes now. We've had enough practice with guests.
we can handle Lee. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. If he hears this,
he'll go all out. Challenge out. What
are you doing? Exactly.
You can get the edit button handy. We can handle it. That's funny.
All right. Well, we did have a few more here. Just kind of not a. I'll tell you what. Somebody asked me this. If somebody said, question for the next show, what's the best Aussie meal you've all had, and where is the best restaurant to get it? Ron, I've got my own thoughts on this. I'd be curious to hear yours.
That's just you two, because I don't even remember eating anything specifically wild in Australia. So
yeah, where did you go?
I eat steak and rice everywhere. It doesn't matter where I live. I'm gonna get steak and rice.
I just remember the dinner we had at that restaurant that turned out to be a little too fancy for my taste. And I picked up the tab because it was my turn to pay. And it was $800.
Holy crap.
And Jose Raymond was like, it's your turn. It's funny. Jose bought dinner the night before, and I'm pretty sure the bill was close to that too. But then the next night we went and ate, and I was like, it's just seafood. They ordered fish and stuff. And then I got the bill, and I was like, oh, shit.
God. $800.
There was a bunch of us, but it is what it was. It's the only time I've ever been blown away by a bill. I was like, holy shit.
No.
I had this thing. It was called a yukai pie. You ever hear of that?
Oh, yeah.
Yukai pie? You know that? You know what that is, Ron?
No. I'm just saying it sounds weird.
It's good. It was like a meat pie, right? And I might even have a picture of it. If I do, I'll throw it up post-production.
Your picture? A real picture?
Yeah. Like a picture that I took. It's like a meat pie, but it also had eggs in it. It had like kind of like a gravy that would remind me of the gravy you would get on poutine, but without the. Isn't there a gravy in that with the like?
That's called cheese.
Isn't there a gravy with it too?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, gravy and cheese.
Yeah, without the cheese, there's like a kind of like a sweet, meat gravy, and it had eggs, and it was just greasy as all hell too, because they put it in like a little paper sleeve and hand it to you.
See-through paper.
Yeah, the paper.
Like
you start. I was like, I'm gonna get one of these a couple days later. I'm gonna get one of these and save it. And I walked out of the store and I was like, no, there's no saving this. It's just going to keep greasing through whatever I put it in. So I had to eat it right away.
Like a metal box. It'll grease through it.
Yeah.
How was it?
That's funny.
It was the bomb. I went back for another one. I mean, it was really good. It was like, I would love to have one today again. And
Did you walk in and say, what is some weird shit you guys make here that they don't have in the States? Or how'd you come up with this?
So I knew they had meat pies because that's not a U.S. thing. Like, Ron, I know that you guys have them in Canada. And
I have an Australian meat pie story as well.
Do you?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have good meat pies there. So a friend of ours that we were hanging out with, Gus, really cool dude, great coach too, powerlifting coach. And we had dinner with him and his client, Sarah Rainbow, who is one of the strongest women in the world. This chick is like freakish strong too. She's like farm strong, like Australian farm chick strong. And he said, you got to try yukai pies. It's UKI. And we happened to drive through yukai. And so we stopped and got them. And it was a decision that I am so glad I made. It was one of the best decisions I made in my life, actually.
That's funny.
I don't know how much that's saying, but go ahead.
There's a lot of questionable ones in there.
You just said one of the best decisions of your entire life was eating a pie.
Yeah, it was that good.
That's funny.
All right, Ron,
I remember
my story.
Just because it triggered me to remember this. Victor Richards guest posed in Australia in 1995 when I was there. I was just showed up there for a couple months, and Victor Richards came through town. Yeah, and my buddy John was like kind of supposed to drive him around, and he was going to hang out with John, right?
Yeah,
John would make sure. Promoter asked him, hey, can you take him out and take him for dinner and all that. So anyways, Victor's at the show. He does the meet and greet. He guest pose. He hangs out. And then after he wants to go to a club. So like John takes him to a club and they're out at a club. And John like scarfs a meal in the car.
Yeah.
Remember I told you my buddy would eat baked potatoes like apples?
Yeah.
So he's like had a meal. He had a meal. He was carrying bowls of fruit around before anybody else. So he's had a meal and he's thinking Victor hasn't eaten yet. And he asked him, he's like, do you want to go eat? And Victor's like, nah, just want to go to the club. So he's like, okay. So they go to the club. And they're at the club for like a couple hours. And he's like starving again. He's like, are you hungry? And he's like, nah, not really. And like they're out for like hours. And then the next morning, he said, yeah, they were out till like 5 a.m. And the next day, he's like, I don't know how that guy's so big. I was with him for 12 hours and all he ate was this little meat pie from a stand on the street in front of the bar. He's like, that's the only thing he ate. He didn't eat a single thing. I was with him for like 12 hours. That's all he had. And he's like huge and massive. He's 300 pounds at like 5'9". Just massive. And all he ate was this little meat pie from a stand out in front of the bar. And I just remember John was like so astonished. He was like, man, I had like 4 meals, the whole 4 or 5 meals when I was with him.
Yeah.
And he had a little meat pie, and he's so huge. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Genetics and lies.
Yeah,
so genetics lies.
That's me holding the pie there. And you can see the egg. See, I took a bite
Zoom
out
in
of
on
it.
that pie. Zoom in on that pie.
All right. There we go. It's as close as I can get there. It was really good.
Yeah.
I got a little on my face, too. There. That's good.
That's pretty
funny.
solid.
It's the kind of pie that, like, as you start eating it, like, it's going to just fall apart in your hands. So you have to eat it fast. You know what I mean?
How many of those did you eat? Because it
Just
wasn't
a couple.
that big.
Yeah, just a couple. It was heavy. It may have been small, but it's kind of like the way gold is deceptively heavy. It was heavy like that. You know what I mean?
Mercury.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that's all we got this week, guys, for questions.
All right.
We're closing on meat pies.
Yes. Oh, I wanted to tell you guys about Australia too a little bit.
There we go.
It was good. It was good, Ron. And I got to meet Tony, which you guys, some people probably saw that video I posted with him. He was like, you could tell instantly, man, the dude is a huge fan of the sport still. Like, even though he's been in it for this long, like he loved it, you know, and he lit up talking about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's done a lot. He fought the battle down there too. That harsh.
What do you mean?
Well, that whole situation they had down there during the
Couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
during the government tyranny days.
Yeah,
tyrannical rule days.
Yeah,
that was a mess for him.
Yeah, he fought hard, man. I'm glad he's still kicking. I'm glad that gym's still there, man. You know, because it was crazy. I remember he told me, because they're 247, right? Doherty's 247. You know, like he never closes. And I remember he told me that the day he opened, he vowed he would never lock his door. Like he would always be open, right? So he opened, and it's Doherty's 247. And he said to me that he symbolically went, because there's a river right, like pretty close to the gym. And he said he went down to the river the day he opened, and he threw the keys in the river. He's like, never closing that, never locking the front door. It's like, oh, you know, I don't know if it was his extra set or something, but he threw a key in the river just to like never shutting. And so that's why, one of the reasons why that was so brutal for him was because that was actually one of his like mission statements.
Yeah,
right. Oh,
you know, everyone else closes, you know, 11 to 5 or whatever.
Right.
But for him, it was actually like part of like everything about that gym was it will never close. It will always be here for the bodybuilders, you know, like no matter what. And it was like part of the whole concept like 30 years ago when he opened or whatever, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was like extra personal for him, you know, but he's a great guy.
I trained there, and I trained at Eugene Tao's gym. So he's a great educator in Australia. I first saw him with John Meadows on some Meadows videos. John had gone over there to do like seminars with him and stuff. He has this entire gym. It's completely private. Okay.
Yeah, like, you sent me pictures of it. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull. This is like the studio portion of his gym, but you can see the studio is like set up right in the middle of all this equipment, and this is like totally private. He has soundproofing through the ceiling and the walls and everything, so you like it doesn't have that echoey feel that you get in a gym normally. So you can record and stuff, and you can speak at a normal voice. It's pretty cool. And he had like a whole wall of Nautilus machines. Have you guys seen this one? This thing was the freaking bomb.
Oh, that's an old pull down, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me go back to that. He's got this old pull down, and it's supposed to be a behind the neck pull down. But if you sit on it facing away, it's great for pulling to the front.
That's funny. Just got a nice smooth move to it. Is that all it is?
Yeah. Really good feel, and it pulled down to a really good spot. And he had all these different Nautilus machines. He's one of those guys that is on like their version of Craigslist, you know, like every day just hunting and searching and stuff. So it was cool though. I got to do all of that. Victoria did her talk. I have to send you a clip still, Dusty. I have a clip of her laying down the laying down the truth to everybody over there.
That's awesome. I got to see that.
About what?
It was an evidence-based conference. And one of her big points was that a lot of the people, like basically she said that, you know, the education that we do a lot of times in fitness it's kind of an indulgent thing. We get to study the things we want to study, and you haven't had to take like advanced statistical analysis classes, the stuff that really sucks, but is the foundation for understanding how to read studies. So we have all these people who are running around quoting all these studies, but they don't really have the foundations of education to understand a lot of times what they're saying. And they're purporting all these, facts. I put my hand up in air quotes, facts, when the reality is like, they don't always understand where they're coming from. She was specifically talking about why it might not be a good idea to base your training around your menstrual cycle for women. Because there's a whole movement that like you need to adjust your training based off of where you're at in your cycle.
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
So
I know
she was saying that like, there's no science to really say that you should do that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I get it. That creeps into like the micromanaging of so many things. And I just, it like I said, spreadsheet bodybuilding can get very, very out of control. So, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So it was cool.
Send it to me too.
I will. So it was cool. We got to go the last few days. We went to a cabin out in the Gondwana rainforest, and it was awesome, man. I mean, the cabin was like, I think $80 US per night. So it wasn't like a fancy place, but there was in the rainforest, there's a waterfall on the property. We were collecting quartz crystals. We were finding crystals in the creek and stuff, in the river and stuff. There were wallabies that would just like hang out on the property and graze. Parrots in the tree while we're like cooking our food and stuff. We went hiking a bunch. It was cool. It was really nice. It was fun.
That's awesome.
It looked like you had a blast, man. There's so much to do there. I mean,
it's such a cool country, dude.
Yeah. It's outrageous.
Did you drive when you were there at all?
Yep.
Yeah. How was that for you? Because like I was scared at first. Like I was worried the night before. Like we rented a car and we had to drive, I don't even know, a couple 100 kilometers out of town into the mountains, into what turned out to be like these crazy little winding roads that were literally just one lane. Like you have to pull off the road to let somebody by. But I mean, just driving on the other side, man, I did make one mistake, but I did all right with it. But it was tricky. You know what I mean?
I remember it seemed like, I remember being worried, this going to be weird. But I remember it didn't take long to just kind of fall in line. And you know what I mean? Especially driving around the town where there's people to follow. Like when you're, when you're in traffic, there's always people to follow. You know what I mean? Yeah. But sometimes if you're going down like a residential road where there's no line on the road and you just kind of find yourself driving down the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I remember like that sort of thing,
I screwed up.
You get used to it.
I
didn't have a
one
standard.
time.
I had an automatic, so I didn't have to worry about the shifting with your other hand because the pedals are the same. A lot of people don't realize the pedals are the same. They don't change order, but the shifter will change, obviously, sides. Yeah. So that's the only thing.
Yeah, I had an automatic, so that made it easier. And I did mess up on the inside of the car, like the way you roll your windows down. You're used to like going to the the left side. You know what I mean? To roll your window down. So that was screwy. The turn signal's on the other side. So I'd go to turn and I'd put on my windshield wipers.
The wipers?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I would do so much shit.
Oh, yeah. I'd be like, going to change lanes. Boom, wipers are on high now. Oh, shit, every time. And then when we came home, I turned on my wipers again, because then I'm used to doing it the other way.
You got used to it?
Yeah. But I did make one mistake, and I pulled into the wrong way on a roundabout. And this was after I'd been doing it for days, but there was nobody else in front of me, so I wasn't following them. And we were like, we had to stop and get gas. And it's like, we're in a roundabout, and like right to our right was a gas station. And I needed to get in there, but we were supposed to go left. And I'm like, okay, but we're going to stop at the gas station first. And I turned right into the roundabout. And these two cars,
the wrong way.
Yeah. These two cars are like head on. They didn't freak out or anything. And then I just pulled right into the gas station. It was it. I was done. So I made one mistake. Yeah, exactly.
I do remember, back when I first went there were no roundabouts here. right? Like I'd never driven through back in the 90s. Like we didn't have any roundabouts here, right? Like I don't remember growing up as a kid, roundabouts were not a thing here. And then you go to Australia and they're everywhere, like all over the residential neighborhoods, all over the big high, like everywhere. They use them all the time. And I remember that scene from European Vacation. Remember Chevy Chase? You know,
he got stuck in it and kept going around, right?
Yeah, I remember they're in Paris and he can't fit, or London or Paris, and he just can't get out of and it just did there. You know, the sun starts setting and he's still stuck in the roundabout. Like, hey kids, just give me a second. I'm gonna, you know, like I just remember thinking of that when I was over there learning.
Me too, actually.
You know, and how the inside lane has the right of way to just go out wherever they want. You know, so you gotta like you learn pretty quick. But I remember after I drove enough roundabouts, I was like, why don't we have these back home? They're way better.
Yeah, it's easier.
Everything just keeps flowing. Yeah. Okay. So that's it, guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Ring the bell. And remember, Dusty, IamMutant.com, Dusty20, Big Ron 20. Get your 20% off on your protein. You're all in, and everyone should get on the gear. Remember the Think Big Bodybuilding Media Patreon. Help keep a producer honed.
Thank you, guys.
And,
appreciate it.
Yeah. And I love the Doherty's gym shirt. Great addition to today's episode. So thanks to everyone. Thanks for all your questions, and thanks for everything, guys. The views have been great. We had a little break, and you didn't even know it. And we're back all refreshed. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.